Story 1. Realizing most people are not thinking about you most of the time. They do not care about what you said that was unusual. Story 2. Knowing that chasing a breakthrough moment is not the way through it. It is just a slow grind, and I had and will always have to keep working at it. It is less about solving the problem and more about managing the problem. Story 3. Realizing that what is going to happen does not care if I am anxious about it or not helped me focus on what needs to happen instead of worrying about what might happen. Story 4. The power of taking a moment to consider the what-ifs and say, I do not care, and really mean it for a minute. Breathe and let it go. Story 5. I have crippling anxiety, and sometimes it makes me feel like everything and everyone is out to get me. I started cognitive behavioral therapy 3 years ago. I was ashamed to break down in front of another adult who was a stranger as I explained why I was always in fight or flight mode. One thing the therapist said that I think has helped me more than anything in the past 3 years is, don't be scared to ask for help, especially early on. Not when you are drowning and on the verge of a mental breakdown. As a hyper-independent person, I realized people actually helped when I asked them, rather than the what-ifs I had created in my thoughts. The second thing that helped me was not from therapy, but maybe from just growing older and wiser. It was, the gut feeling I have is just my anxiety. Sit on it, even sleep on it. Don't just jump into action right away, and that gut feeling will go away. This helped me calm down so much. It helped with all the negative self-talk, helped me be an active listener, and sometimes enjoy the journey as it comes rather than rushing through life like it was a race and I had deadlines to meet milestones. Don't get me wrong, I still work best when I have milestones and deadlines, but I keep them for professional life now, not like before when I blended them into my personal life as well. It's not that serious, I tell myself. Story 6. I have generalized anxiety disorder, so there are many different things that make me anxious. Something that has helped tremendously is being on medication. I have a customer service job, and customers can be rather rude, aggressive, and entitled. The medication helps me think much more clearly. In times of conflict or aggression from others, I am able to think logically about how the situation is not my fault. Being able to think logically, not emotionally, about things that make me anxious makes a huge difference. Story 7. I realized that I do not have to do a lot of the things that make me anxious. I used to do many people-pleasing activities, but I was able to stop when I understood I did not have to do everything. Story 8. I have found myself not caring as much anymore. I suffer from anxiety and depression, and I have tried to be open with people, but I realized that no one cares about the details as long as you seem okay. One day, it hit me that I needed more self-care and reflection. I allowed myself to say no to people and started being more selfish. I ended pointless friendships and chose not to engage in small talk with colleagues I could not be bothered with. I stopped trying to please people. I have my bad days, but honestly, it feels so freeing to start being more selfish and focusing on myself. Outside of my girlfriend or my manager, I stopped putting in effort. You could say it is a symptom of depression, but I just feel free from so much hassle by giving up. Story 9. A lot of my anxious traits and reactions are to be thanked. They developed as a necessity and got me through some tough times when I was a child. I should not hate those parts of myself. I should thank them for what they have provided and let them go now that I do not need them to feel safe anymore. Story 10. Getting older and realizing nobody cares what you do or look like. Your life is very insignificant in the big picture. Stop stressing and just enjoy the little things. Appreciate what you have. Story 11. Realizing the difference between my body feeling anxious and actually being anxious has been important. I have noticed that many health issues, such as vitamin deficiencies, have caused me anxiety, but those are physical issues. When my body feels anxious, my brain tends to jump to thoughts that make me anxious mentally and fuels the cycle. For example, I feel anxious and then wonder what I can be anxious about, which is often many things. Once I realized what I was doing, I was able to stop myself from ruminating on things that had no reason to cause anxiety. Story 12. For me, it's the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving AF***CK, as the starting point, followed by years of therapy. Story 13. Anxiety is not a personality trait. It is something that happens. Once you separate anxiety from yourself, you become more aware of it. It also helped me with depression. Anxiety is a constant in my life, and it might feel like part of me, but it is not my entire life. Therapy helps a great deal. Story 14. Exercise and diet helped me. A diet for inflammation was causing me so much grief. I rarely feel that slight pain in my gut now. Sometimes it is still there. However, I am able to manage it so far. Watch your sugar intake for sure. High-protein diets worked for me, along with taking natural anti-inflammatory supplements like turmeric with black pepper, omega-3 with eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, and black seed oil. Story 15. I used to feel really anxious doing anything in public. I felt watched and like anything I was doing was embarrassing. Then my relatives and I were put in a life-threatening situation for a while, where appearance and visibility just ceased to matter. I could have worn the most enormous, hideous, crazy hat on my head every day. It would not have mattered because all I had on my mind was survival and looking out for my loved ones. After that survival situation was over, I did not feel as anxious in public anymore. Being visible and possibly embarrassing did not matter then, and it does not matter now. Story 16. Before my presentation, the thought of $9,000 in tuition fees being wasted instantly cured my anxiety. Story 17. Getting older, really. I noticed as I moved deeper into my 20s it became less and less of an issue. I am not sure what changed exactly, but I suppose it does not matter. Story 18. Remember a couple of important things to help stay grounded. Failure happens even if you do everything right. Minimize it, learn what you can, and move on. Things you have no control over are not worth stressing about. Plan your best and roll with it. So far, you have been okay. Story 19. Understanding why I have anxiety and why specific things trigger it, such as childhood trauma and an emotionally unstable upbringing. Story 20. Just acknowledging that I have the power and intelligence to tackle nearly any problem that comes my way. Sometimes even saying or yelling out loud "stop" when I am overthinking helps. Story 21. Mine was trying to focus on the past rather than the future. There are many things you cannot control about what is going to happen. The stress of everything added on top can overwhelm someone quickly. It does not make it go away, but having a mindset that lets go of the things you cannot control and focuses on the present helps. Anxiety is very broad. We would need to know more about what triggers it for you. Story 22. I've had anxiety my entire life. Depression and anxiety run in my family. My mother, brother, and sister are all diagnosed and on medication, but I have never attended therapy. I started meditation at a very early age, which eventually developed. I reached the point where, even today, I can lay down, shut my eyes, and within seconds enter deep meditation. Through meditation, before it became widely popular online with abundant information available, I embarked on a spiritual journey. Meditation was the driving factor. I realized I could do many interesting things, that everyone can do many interesting things, and that our mind is more powerful than we realize. This place is not what we think it is. My mind is very serene these days, and I experience anxiety only rarely, when I forget who I am. I have had periods in my life where I strayed from spirituality and meditation, sinking into dark places, even becoming so depressed that I almost ended my life. However, I quickly returned to my path and recovered to a serene state. I am not suggesting that my path is a solution for everyone. Not at all. I am only saying it was my solution. Story 23. The more I do something, the more I get used to it. I have pretty severe anxiety. At one point in my life, just leaving my home was scary for me because of bad past experiences as well as living in a dangerous area. The more I put myself outdoors, the easier it gets. I have also come to a realization that no matter what I do, someone is eventually going to decide to start trouble with me, usually grown men threatening me for no reason. So, I just stay in my lane and deal with those moments when they come along. I am in one of those situations where my anxiety is not exactly unreasonable from experience, but I still do not want to live my life being afraid of being harmed just because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Story 24. On a truly fundamental level, the people around you are not thinking about you or paying attention to you as much as you believe, even the people closest to you. Story 25. Honestly, when depression hit for real, anxiety was just another thing I stopped caring about. Improving that part lasted. I kind of got the tools from wanting to die anyway, and when I didn't anymore, I had gotten used to how harmless they are, actually, or something. Story 26. Facing the fear and doing it anyway. If you feel afraid to go to the supermarket and you avoid going, you are affirming your brain's irrational fear of the supermarket. Next time, it will be even harder to go. The best thing to do is tell yourself, I am not afraid, and just do it. Story 27. Thinking of anxiety as a temporary state of being that is not permanent and will eventually pass, like having acid reflux or something. I recognize it and think, oh great, my body's doing that annoying thing. Instead of feeling terrible and not understanding why, when I recognize it consciously, I can remind myself that any other thoughts I have right now might be distorted, exaggerated, or warped. I give myself some leeway with negative emotions or any spiraling thoughts, acknowledging them but viewing them with a little more distance than usual. Story 28. Realizing that an anxiety attack is like getting on a roller coaster. Once the big harness comes down, you cannot get off. The more you fight, the worse it gets. You literally have to ride it out, and the ride always ends. Story 29. Living in the future equals anxiety. Living in the past equals depression. Obviously, there is way more nuance to it than that, but it is enough to remember to pull yourself into the now, which helps. Adding in recognition that you are safe can also shift internal feelings in the right direction. Story 30. Many people out in the world socializing, such as those you meet at a party or any space where people go specifically to meet others, simply want to meet new people. They are not looking to judge everyone negatively. They are there for fun or to talk to others, share in discussions, connect, or grow in their understanding of the world. When I was more anxious and insecure, I assumed every person I saw or met at a party was there to judge me the way my parents would always judge me. But no, many people want to chat either out of genuine interest or because they would be bored if they were alone. This change in mindset made me see the world as full of potential friends instead of potential emotional daggers waiting to cut me down. Also, many people socializing are introverts who are trying their best to connect and not be isolated but are not in their element. I used to think I was the only introvert at a party, which made me feel worse since no one else understood. Now, realizing there are other introverts initially hidden among the crowd, I try to find them because they tend to appreciate when someone new has genuine interest in having a thoughtful conversation. We all get to have the self-encouragement when socializing. Of course, there are jerks everywhere, so there is still a risk of encountering a negative person in the crowd. But that is on them, and it is not worth avoiding all potential fun, interaction, and future friends just because there are some bad apples in the bunch. Story 31. Contrast therapy. Sauna for 10 minutes followed by a cold plunge for 3 to 5 minutes, repeated twice, 3 to 5 days a week. This has reduced my anxiety. I already work out and do a lot of self-care activities. Story 32. Remember that anxious feelings cause anxious thoughts, not the other way around. The sensations of anxiety are autonomous. They recruit the supposed reasons as the brain's cortex tries to rationalize the spasms of the amygdala. As William James said, emotions result from our perception and interpretation of bodily changes. Story 33. The anxiety itself was not as problematic as being frustrated about feeling anxious. It became much easier to manage when I started accepting how I felt. Story 34. I found out I had a hormone imbalance that all my doctors missed for decades. I still have anxiety, but it is less constant. I walk a lot when I am anxious, so I give myself little trips to do, like running to the store for something simple. It helps me take breaks that are not aimless. Otherwise, I would walk for hours and never get my work done. Walking has been my main method since I was a child. Story 35. Praying. I know some people are not religious, and that is fine. Everyone has their own beliefs. However, focusing on my faith has greatly reduced many of my struggles. Story 36. Hey, original poster. For me, it was when my therapist taught me that thoughts are not facts. Truly internalizing that truth probably saved my life. Story 37. Sadly, it was something really bad happening to me that put all the smaller problems into perspective. Story 38. For me, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy was a major breakthrough for my post-traumatic stress disorder following my previous two major heart issues. I was medically evacuated twice. Story 39. Not completely gone, and it does not happen as rapidly as a breakthrough, but treating my body better, for example, stopping regular recreational drug use and not constantly causing my blood sugar levels to fluctuate. Exercise and eating greens. Therapy did not help me actually understand what is going on, but talking about something repeatedly helps identify negative thought patterns quicker in the moment, which immediately gives you some distance from them. I think this needs to be refreshed every so often. When I was really struggling, regular consistent meditation practice helped. Story 40. Hitting rock bottom and realizing I could not live like this was like a switch that suddenly flicked. So I sought help from my family, general practitioner, and counseling. Story 41. Two things really. 1. No one cares about me as much as I do. When my brain starts doing the what ifs, I ask myself, is there an action I can take now that can reasonably change the outcome? Not a what if leading to another what if, but an actual action at that point. If the answer is yes, I let myself think about it and take the action. If it is no, which is the majority of the time, I tell myself, thinking about this is not going to change the outcome. This is not helping me right now. I have to let this go. Story 42. You can stop thinking about things that upset you. There are no rules. You can simply say, I am going to think about cats now instead. And if you do this enough, you can train your brain to have fewer worrisome thoughts. I definitely recommend seeing a real cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner, but learning how to stop the negative thought spiral is a big part of cognitive behavioral therapy. Story 43. Obviously, consult with a doctor, but for me, after more than 30 years without medication, it is okay to medicate. You do not have to feel that way all the time. Story 44. Honestly, not a breakthrough, but I am slowly feeling better. I have been managing anxiety holistically. I started therapy about a year ago, have been more diligent with exercise, and now have started a journey on medication. I really wanted there to be a holistic change or a quick fix when I was in my lowest moments. But I realized it does not work that way, and I am trying to trust that by taking this multifaceted approach, tomorrow will be better than today. Story 45. Two recent ones. If I worry about something bad happening and then nothing bad happens, I suffer. If I worry about something bad happening and then something bad happens, I suffer doubly. The only thing worry brings is extra suffering. My second one is a grounding technique that helps me when my emotions are high. I remind myself that emotions come from chemical processes in the brain and that I can passively observe them changing my body's physiology. It only lasts about a minute if there is no feedback loop. So if I can passively observe the emotions running their course, it makes them pass much sooner. Story 46. Optimistic nihilism. Everyone is just a drop in the sea. I do not notice others. Others probably do not notice me. No one is inherently better or worse than me. If I have a lifespan of 100 years, it is never too late. There are a million ways to die. I might as well try not to die because something else is guaranteed to get me one way or another. Story 47. Some things I did that really helped. I read Breath by James Nestor and started working seriously on my breathing patterns afterward because the book really made me understand how and why it matters. I practiced yin yoga to gently reconnect with my body without any pressure, and it made me want to try something more athletic afterward despite my low self-esteem, especially regarding any type of sport. I also explored somatic experiencing exercises and meditations. I recommend the YouTube channel Hello in Her Light. I've been free of panic attacks for years now. I truly thought I would never get over them. Story 48. Life is a constant state of ambiguity, and the only way to get through it is to accept that I have very little control over anything that happens beyond my day-to-day functioning. Story 49. Starting medication has helped me think more rationally and let things go rather than dwell on them. I realized how much I catastrophize, how much I overthink, and how much time I spent ruminating. It is miserable. I hope that when I eventually stop medication, I can use what I have learned to develop a healthier mindset on my own. I want to try not to ruminate so much because it destroys my mental health. Story 50. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing changed my nervous system and my way of perceiving past events, which influenced present behavior and perceptions. Story 51. Getting enough sleep is very important for me. When I do not get good sleep for several days, my mind becomes a battleground. If I get the sleep I need, I can stay mindful instead of looping or spiraling. Story 52. One day, the concept of acceptance finally clicked for me in a way that it had not before. I realized that a lot of my anxiety comes from resisting certain outcomes in situations. I do not want situation B to happen, so I fight it in my mind. Now, when I feel a spiral coming on, I just say, "You are equipped and capable." I may not want or like situation B, but if it happens and I can handle it. That has brought me a lot of peace and often stops the spiral before it even really begins. Story 53. Read psychological books, spend time with friends every day, and got married. Now I have 2 children and do not have time for anxiety. Story 54. Medication, dialectical behavior therapy. Acknowledging that just because something is scary does not mean you should not do it. Story 55. One thing that resonated with me was that as long as I tried to suppress or push against the anxiety, I was only making it worse. The key was to acknowledge it, accept that it is there, and work alongside it. Once I developed the habit of not trying to make it go away, it usually subsided. I still get anxious. It is part of me, but it does not define me. Story 56. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing almost fully cured me. I still get anxiety sometimes, but not as bad. For those times, I think to myself, pretend to be brave. Somehow, I am able to trick myself into thinking I am just an actor pretending to be a brave person without anxiety, and that actually helps. Story 57. I had health anxiety for a couple of years that was so bad I was having severe panic attacks a few times per month accompanied by chronic insomnia. I found a health anxiety subreddit and discovered an online course by Paige Pradko, a therapist, using exposure and response prevention techniques specifically for health anxiety. I used the techniques I learned from the course for a few months, and it worked so well that I only have maybe a mild panic attack every few months, and I can make them go away pretty quickly. I don't experience insomnia as often either. I have also had generalized anxiety disorder with depression for years. What helps me the most with that is regular exercise. I go to the gym 3 to 5 times per week and walk my dog for an hour a day. I also take vitamin D and 100 to 200 milligrams of chelated magnesium. The magnesium is especially effective for anxiety, particularly nighttime anxiety. I had a blood test done a few years ago and found out my vitamin D levels were extremely low, so I take it year-round, even in summer. That could also explain why the magnesium helps me so much, because the two work in tandem. If my body doesn't metabolize vitamin D very well, it makes sense that I need to supplement both. Also, lots of self-compassion and learning when to push my own boundaries sometimes. Story 58. Anxiety can be a useful tool. It serves as our subconscious alarm system. It is acceptable for anxiety to be present, but it should not take control or make decisions. Story 59. The mean little voice in your head telling you everything will be horrible, that you are horrible and everyone else is terrible is a dirty little liar. Ignore the little creature and it loses its power. Go for it. Story 60. Medication and time. Over time, realizing people are so caught up in their own world that you mean little to the majority of people, so who cares what they think or how they feel? It really does not matter. When you go home and you are by yourself, the results really only matter to you. Story 61. Realizing that it is just thoughts and thoughts are not always reality. We assume that the feeling triggered by anxious thoughts confirms that the thought is real, but that is only an emotional conclusion and not the reality of the situation. Story 62. I tell myself, just do it, and it works more often than not. I still need therapy, but it helps. Story 63. Noticing the muscles in my face tensing up leads to similar tension elsewhere. Relax the face and the others follow. takes the edge off. Story 64. Walking. If I catch anxiety trying to get me, I start walking, even if it is just circling a room. It may take time, but it recalibrates my existence. Story 65. Accept that we cannot always control what happens around us, people's attitudes toward us, or what they think about us. It is a difficult task, but I remind myself of this every day. At the end of the day, I am still myself with my strengths and weaknesses. There will be places where those qualities are valued and others where they are not, and that is okay. Story 66. I had been developing phobias, such as almost being unable to drive. I experienced major anxiety episodes in the weeks leading up to flying on planes and had panic attacks about mild medical issues. I saw a therapist a couple of years after this started because it was getting worse. He said that since everything seemed to start around the same time, he thought I had experienced something traumatic then. I could not think of anything and only saw him 3 times in total. The only other thing he did was give me worksheets with questions like, how will what you're anxious about affect you in a few weeks, months, years? This seemed unhelpful since the answer was, I or someone else will be dead. About 6 months later, I was laughing to myself remembering a time several years ago when I dissociated for 3 hours while trying to read the care instructions after my daughter got staples in her head. She got staples because her head was literally gushing blood after she fell. I realized he was right. That had been a traumatic event related to death that caused me severe anxiety. Once I processed that event, all my anxiety disappeared except for social anxiety, which I have had forever. Thanks, Brett. Story 67. Worrying about something out of your control makes you suffer twice. If it does not happen, you suffer for no reason. If it does, you suffer both what could be and what actually happens. Story 68. Realizing everything eventually passes. Today will pass, tomorrow will pass. Pain will pass, joy will pass. Time together will pass, time alone will pass. Life will also pass. And even passing will pass. Story 69. Watching truly beautiful movies reminds us that life is a hero's journey. It can be challenging, but ultimately, a breakthrough is coming. Story 70. Honestly, the biggest breakthrough for me personally was realizing that it is anxiety. Not knowing it and feeling all the emotions that come with it was nerve-wracking. Realizing it, however, almost immediately made me understand that I could at least try to manage it somehow and that I was not just feeling crazy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.